You can't move people to action unless you first move them to emotion. The heart always comes before the head. Hey everyone, welcome back to the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Today I'm presenting the law of connection. The law of connection simply states that you have to touch a heart before you can ask for a hand. I think it was General Schwarzkopf who said, confident leaders stand in front of the platoon and see the platoon. Great leaders stand in front of the platoon and see 44 individuals, each of whom want to live, each of whom have aspirations, each of whom want to do good. In order to connect, you have to see each person as a separate individual. Each person has their own mind map, the way they perceive life, their own past battles, and their own hopes and desires. All these are key in getting to know them and building rapport. For some people, connecting or building rapport is not easy. We understand that we have to touch a heart before we can ask for a hand. But just like leadership, the hardest and most important person you will ever lead is yourself. In connection, the hardest and most important person you will ever connect with is yourself. So the first heart that we have to touch is our own. You'll hear it nowadays called emotional intelligence, self-awareness, whatever you want to call it. Can you connect on an emotional level with yourself? Are you self-aware enough to know your strengths and your weaknesses? Are you comfortable enough to know your own blind spots? The next key, and I see it on Instagram all the time, we can't lead others to places we've never been ourselves. You see these 19, 20-year-old coaches on Instagram, I'm sure they're good. But the bottom line is, you have to have been there yourself. If you're going to be a business coach, then you better have built a business. If you're going to teach leadership, then you better have led some people. We should also know our giftedness, our purpose, our DNA, things that we are naturally good at, that we have talent in, and those strengths are the things that we should really be working on. There's a great book by Simon Sinek, I'll put it in the link below, called Know Your Why. What gets you motivated? What keeps you passionate about things? And that is the area that you want to concentrate in. And once you've been there, you'll be able to connect with people in that area. So next, I'm going to ask you 4 questions. And I highly recommend you journal in these 4 areas if you really want to develop your leadership. These are all personal areas, but if you really want to see growth or find out what some of your blind spots are or something like that, it's really imperative that you work on these 4 areas to allow you to connect better. What this will develop is on-purpose focus. That means we cannot lead people to places we have not been ourselves. If we're not journaling in these 4 areas, we can't lead people in these 4 areas. We have to be able to articulate these 4 areas about ourselves and see it in ourselves. When we can see it in ourselves, then we can see it in others. And if we can see it in others, then we can lead and connect with them. The first area is, am I worthy? And that sounds kind of silly sometimes, but man, that is so huge. I'm going to be teaching a course in John Maxwell's 15 Laws of Growth. And the 3rd law is the law of the mirror. The law states you must see value in yourself in order to add value to other people. This law is the emotional equivalent to the law of the lid in leadership. If you cannot articulate in the positive in these 4 areas, and especially this first area, You're just not going anywhere. No one outperforms their own self-value. The next area is, am I capable? Are you capable in accomplishing whatever task, whether it's leading or coaching or something else like that? Can you articulate that in the positive? If you can't, where's that fear coming in at? And what can you do to correct that fear? I know when I first started videotaping, since it was something new, man, I get nervous each and every time. I still do. But until I practice and journal and reevaluate, then I come into the confidence level that I need in order to videotape these lessons. Am I deserving? Man, that's a hard one. That almost goes beyond a coach and goes into therapy. Are you deserving to be in the position that you're in? Asking yourself if you trust yourself, that's really pretty huge. Do you trust yourself to follow through with the plans that you're making? If not, why not? All this goes back to the last thing. The law of the mirror. You must see value in yourself to add value to others. So make sure you're journaling in these 4 areas. Am I worthy? Am I capable? Am I deserving? Do I trust myself? And as you journal in these 4 areas, especially if you concentrate on the positive, you'll start seeing value in yourself and you'll start adding value to others. Now remember, they can't go along with you until they can get along with you. So I got 9 questions I want to ask you. And they should be pretty revealing. Number 1, do you ask the question, how can I help you? Are you in a servant leadership mode, or are you in an authoritarian mode, just telling them what to do all the time? And if you're doing that, how do you know they have the resources to accomplish the mission? Next one is, are you connected with yourself? This is pretty much what we just went over. Are you emotionally and cognitively aware of what's going on in your attitude, temper, and behavior? And before you can connect with others, you must connect with yourself. You got to reflect on connection with yourself. Ask yourself, what's my greatest asset? That goes back to knowing your strengths. There's a good book out there called Strength Finders. I'll put a link to it down below. And that'll show you 5 areas that you show a natural tendency towards as far as strengths. Once you know those, are you living in your strength zone? Am I applying my strengths? And how can I use this strength to coach others? There's a difference between coaching, mentoring, and instructing. Leaders should be in the coaching and mentoring job. How well do I relate and communicate with others? I highly suggest read books on relating to others. Everyone communicates, few connect. I know this is all mushy stuff, but if you're really going to develop your leadership, you have to be able to develop a rapport with other people. Otherwise, all you're ever going to be is a positional leader. Do I like me, and am I likable? Man, if you don't like yourself, don't be surprised if everyone else does not like you. So find out who you are. Do you, boo? Find out what's going on with yourself. And how do you speak to their heart? Do you communicate what is important to you, or do you communicate what is important to them? And the last one is, how do they know and how do they feel? When we're talking with them, when we're having our one-on-ones or maybe weekly or monthly calls, are you listening and focusing on what they are saying? Are you just running in your mind and prepared to answer in that problem-solving mode? Are you on your own agenda? Or are you listening to their agenda? This next slide, this one, authenticity is huge. This is one thing that I always tell my young Marines, or if I'm coaching leaders, you can't be me. You have to be you. Maybe you're a little bit more authoritarian. Maybe you're a little bit more democratic. Maybe you're more laissez-faire in your leadership. Whatever the case may be, you got to put your own personality in when you lead people. If you're not authentic, they'll see right through you. You'll look plastic, you'll act plastic, and they won't develop any respect for you. You can fake people for about 6 months on a new project or a new job, and that is about it. And usually it doesn't even take that long. Usually it takes about 1 minute to 2 minutes for people to see right through you. And I don't care if they're 5 years old, 15 years old, 50 years old, or 100 years old. That whole fake it till you make it thing, I just don't believe in that. You gotta be you. And if you're working on you, that's great. You gotta be you with all your flaws, all your inconsistencies. You gotta be transparent. They gotta see you as a human being. First one you gotta do is you gotta know your purpose. Now here's a pretty easy way if you really want to find out what your purpose is. Write down 5 or 6 great successes. Everything you can remember, how you felt, how you thought through details, the emotions, the feelings, what were you doing? Write those 5 or 6 down. Then write down 5 or 6 epic fails. Again, everything you can remember, what time of day it was, how you felt, the details that are going through your head, the fear, the emotions, the whatever it is. And then you got to start looking for commonalities. You will discover your strength zones and your weakness areas. Do this with a trusted individual whom you can be open and upfront with, and who will be real with you, who won't hide your blind spots. This is not an exercise just to pass over or go half-heartedly at. Blind areas have to be exposed, and what your strengths are have to be exposed. You're going to have to do this vulnerable. Next thing you got to do is know your enthusiasm, your passion. What would you do regardless of pay? What moves you deeply in a positive emotion? When you bring purpose, passion together with a plan, we call it life. People who don't function in the above, we call average. Next thing you got to do is know your audience. What are their core values, their vision for themselves, their purpose? The worst thing you can do is lead somebody and not know their core values. Going back to authenticity, live your message. The words have to match the music. We can't teach leadership if we don't live leadership. We can't teach discipline if we don't live discipline. We can't teach teamwork if we don't live teamwork. Next one is go where they are. You have to relate to the culture and be willing to extend yourself. Lean into it. If you want to sit on a cave on top of a mountain and want people to come to you, well, I hope you like being alone. Because it is the responsibility of the leader to reach out and connect. It is not the responsibility of the followers. Next thing you got to do is focus on them, not you. Too many times, up and down the chain, they're too interested in developing followers, not leaders. Newsflash. You're really not that important. Our focus as leaders should be to develop leaders, to replace ourselves. The only time we have impact in our lives is if we cause other people to grow. Believe in them. Pretty much what I covered beforehand. Believe in yourself and use that as a platform to believe in them and lift them up. If you don't believe in yourself, then you don't have that platform and you can't lift them up. And as a leader, you're not doing them any good. And last but not least, offer direction and hope. See, leaders are dealers in hope. We're hope dealers, vision setters, goal makers. If you want to boil down the difference between management and leadership, that's it. We deal in hope. We deal in vision. We deal in goals that are achievable, where people stretch, where people get out of their comfort zone. When you deal in hope and vision and goals, you're charting the course. You're not just steering the ship. The stronger the relationship you form with followers, the greater the connection you forge, and the more likely those followers will want to help you. So on this last slide, how do you want to be seen as a leader? And are you that person? Have other leaders reached out and connected with you? Are you influential? And last, do you ask questions about their life? What is their motivation and their desire? I'll leave you with this. A leader fails if he does not know his follower. So that's it. That's the law of connection. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give me 2 big thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel as I progress down through the 21 irrefutable laws. And remember, you can always go back over these lessons. These lessons are for you to develop your own leadership.